Now you're listening to Fantastic Formosa with John Abrams in Taipei. This is Fantastic Formosa. I'm John Abrams, and welcome back, folks, and I really appreciate you listening. We have Jay back to talk about all kinds of medical issues and health issues, and he used to sell medical equipment or build medical equipment at one point?
A long time ago, I did pharmaceutical analytics.
Wow. Pharmaceuticals are drugs, medicine.
And analytics are like looking at like data to understand buying behaviors.
Wow.
But that was out of college. That was so many years ago. I'm surprised you even remember that from our conversation.
Well, I assume people that do that kind of work make good money.
Yeah, it's depending on almost everyone in the pharmaceutical industry makes a lot of money. I don't always think it's in the interest of the public. I think that they often are just trying to sell drugs because it's profitable.
I see.
That was the case with there's a very famous painkiller that was the case for, where they knew it was bad, and
what?
Oxycontin. You don't know that story? They knew it was super addictive. They should have. They didn't act responsibly.
And it turned out to kill people after a while. They got addicted, right?
It's I think the nickname for it is like poor man's heroin or something.
Poor man's heroin, yeah.
This is kind of a dark topic, though. I don't know if, but yeah, I used to.
It
work
is a dark topic. It explains
industry.
A lot of the problems in America. Why fentanyl is such a dangerous drug now, and Oxycontin was the
precursor
to
the thing before. I keep using advanced words.
Precursor is the drug before the fentanyl crisis today in America. Why American streets, particularly in California, are full of homeless people.
It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's more complicated than that. But a lot of them are fentanyl users, and they just die on the street eventually.
So there's a lot of drug users. I think what happened is people have really good intentions. I think a lot of times people want to think that if they make things illegal or if they make them hard to get, that will solve a problem instead of dealing with the fact that people want to use these drugs or that these drugs exist or like other things that people are uncomfortable with.
Right.
Like end-of-life care, human sexuality, the uncomfortable topics where people make very difficult laws instead of trying to deal with the complexity of the issue. They just try to make it illegal, and that doesn't solve the problem. Often it makes the problem much worse.
Yeah, if you ever go to America, you'll be aware very quickly of a fentanyl crisis because people will be talking about it, and
in California, California, it's really bad.
Not just California, boy, it is everywhere. Wow, it's just
I never saw fentanyl in Chicago.
No, you never did. Then maybe it's too cold for people up there. Because a lot of them are outside.
They'd probably die in the cold. It's brutally cold in the winter.
Oh yeah, Chicago. I gotta warn you, folks, and listening that if Chicago is called the Windy City because it's on the Michigan Lake.
No, that's not true. We talked about this.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
It is very windy, but that's not why it's called the Windy City.
I've been there on visits, and I tell you, it's a windy city.
It is a windy city.
The snow and the ice, and you might as well just put oh my God.
But in the summer and the spring, it's so beautiful. Don't come unless you are really comfortable being very cold. Don't come in the winter. Come in the summer and the spring. It's beautiful. It's one of America's great cities for like half the year.
Okay. Yeah, you can come to Taipei, and it's a great city all year round.
It depends.
In case it's raining or typhoon or something. That's only a few days.
I personally find the humidity in Taiwan really challenging.
Well, humidity, we're talking about a listening group that is mostly in Southeast Asia and southern Taiwan, and those folks know humidity much worse than this.
I'm used to like Mediterranean humidity. It's a little bit
Mediterranean,
more mild.
All right.
So I've visited parts of the Middle East,
Right.
and I find
that's
that
a
humidity.
dry heat, right?
It's a more comfortable kind
All
of.
right.
I think that's the weather that personally I prefer more.
Well, they say that Taiwan weather is very similar to Florida weather,
I think Florida is a bit nicer,
humidity-wise.
Weather-wise overall.
All right, it's
I
on
think-
the same axis.
I think
or
even
same,
like the typhoons or hurricanes or the tsunamis or whatever, all that stuff. I mean, Florida gets it sometimes, but I think that when it does hit Taiwan and other places in Asia, it hits it significantly worse.
Well, Taiwan has, if you don't know, folks, Taiwan is a volcanic,
Non-active volcanic.
non-active volcanic island, basically, and the mountains, many of the mountains are made up of ash, and when they have an earthquake and it rains, it turns this mud into basically a river of mud.
Yeah,
and
it's very scary if you're
it's
driving.
scary if you've seen it. Yeah, entire mountains can just move.
But to the credit of the government here, they'll fix the roads in like under a week.
Well, they're used to it. Yeah, they're prepared.
It's like, and they rescue the people. Very few people die.
Unless it's a major typhoon or something.
Yeah, if it's like a
nasty.
7 or 8 earthquake
Yeah,
or something.
Oh my God, yeah. We had a small earthquake last night, I think.
Didn't even notice.
Well, you're probably on that. What floor are you living on?
I'm living on first floor.
Right. See, I'm on the 11th.
I
so
deal more with the cockroaches than the earthquakes.
Well, yeah, cockroaches are a little lazy. I don't want to come all the way to the 11th floor. But on the first floor of a building, I guess that would be the second floor? Is it really
No,
on the ground?
I'm ground level.
Ground level. Okay. I'll tell you what, because I was here when they had the big typhoon. I think it was 2001, I think. And all the ground level buildings in Taipei were flooded.
They flood, yeah.
Yeah.
You can see some of the water damage on some of the buildings.
You can still see it, yeah. So I always recommend people not to.
But we're making it the weather sound really terrible. I think the weather's mostly okay.
No. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's really I really like the weather because it makes it so easy to garden. So I grow 20 or 30 different types of plants outside of my place.
Like what? Vegetables?
All kinds of stuff. So I grow some really basic herbs. So like I'll grow like mint or chives.
Really?
But then I have a passion fruit that I'm growing and coffee.
Wow.
And the passion fruit is a vine, so it's kind of climbing up the side of my building. And it's super happy. It gets tons of sunlight, and then it rains, and it's super it's really lush and green.
You know, my wife has this little garden project in our balcony, and everything dies.
I can give her some tips if you want. A lot of it's fertilizer and making sure that it gets the right amount of water.
Well, one thing is that what we say, you don't have, or you do have,
a green thumb.
Why
a thumb? This has never made any sense to me.
I don't know, but if you have a green thumb, that means you could plant anything and it grows.
That's not true. I by the standards of almost anyone, I have a green thumb, and there are certain types of plants that I have no luck with. I've never been able to keep a bonsai alive for some reason.
Bonsai,
no.
Yeah, I know.
I have trouble with certain types of ferns.
All right, ferns are terrible.
But I grow a lot of stuff. I think that I think you have to choose your varieties. I think it's very calming to just go out into your garden and water and look at like how happy all the plants are. It's good for the soul.
Near Dawn Park, they have a flower market, and it also has vegetable
under the highway.
Under the highway every Sunday.
No, it's all week.
All week now.
Is it? Wait, no. It depends on the time. It depends on the time of year. Sometimes it's all week. Sometimes you're right. It's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing.
And they also have a jade.
I don't like the jade market. I love the flower. The flower market's great. It's not the cheapest place in Taipei to get flowers, but it has the most variety. But the jade market, I just personally, it's not to my taste.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not a jade person. I think when I first came to Asia in 1990 in Hong Kong, I was really interested in the different ornate jade products that they had. But
It's so tough.
yeah, I don't know now.
It's
Yeah.
like no. Have you ever tried drilling jade? It'll break your drill bits. It's tougher than steel.
That's a good way to test whether you have fake jade or not. Some of that stuff is, I suspect, in Hong Kong or anywhere in Asia.
I think that this idea that like pretty stones are valuable is a little silly.
Well, yeah, but women don't think that. You know?
I think that what's been going on in the diamond market is a really interesting example where the artificial diamonds have gotten so cheap, and now there's a whole discussion within the diamond market about like whether or not you can sort of create a specialty market for the real stones. They're going to probably be running ad campaigns. I think that these quote unquote precious stones, other than specific industrial applications, like diamond can be used for drilling, or gold can be used.
Yeah, drills can be. Yeah,
Gold can be used for electrical circuits, but like other than these like specialty applications in industry, these materials are not so valuable.
Right.
My personal opinion, I don't feel unless it's sentimental, like it was like my grandmother gave me a ring,
Sure.
or my parents gave me like a bracelet or something. It doesn't.
Yeah, we had a real nightmare with my wife's engagement ring. She lost the diamond. It popped out. And
Well, that's you just got to get a nice piece of glass.
it was a real diamond, supposedly. I was unhappy about it. But what can you do? It obviously wasn't glued or fastened in correctly.
Oh, that's a whole thing. I watch these people on YouTube sometimes do the faceting, and personally, I think actually the craftsmanship that goes into making this stuff is more valuable and interesting than the actual stones and materials.
Yeah.
Well, because they're very precise. They know what they're doing. They're like, some of the jewelers are like masterful.
Yeah. They're working with miniature tools, and
Even the dust is valuable, so their dust collection is really fancy.
really, if they get any gold dust,
It's worth a lot. Gold by weight is worth 1 ounce of gold. If it's silver or something, silver is not so valuable by weight. But if you're working,
Really, I didn't know that.
an ounce of silver is maybe what, 20 USD?
But you can use it on vampires.
I mean, I think that just for our listeners to know that he's making a joke. I think that silver does actually have antimicrobial properties, though. So
What is that now? Micro means small. What was the other part of that?
antimicrobial.
Okay, it sounds
So
like
antibacterial.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So sometimes they'll use like silver molecules in certain types of disinfectants
Really?
and antiseptics and stuff.
Had no idea. Okay. I wonder why it kills vampires, though.
It's just he's being silly again.
We need to have fun on this program sometimes, folks.
I think that the thing that's really interesting and cool is that people think like a diamond and like gold or silver are very different, but both a diamond and gold and silver are crystals, and I don't think people really understand that like metals are all crystals.
Right.
Like
Right.
I don't think no one thinks of aluminum foil as a crystal. It is. That is
Really?
all metals are crystals.
Aluminum foil. I just thought it was for baking.
I mean, it is for baking, but like I think that we don't have a notion of like metal as a crystal, and crystals have really interesting properties. So like their molecules. I'm a nerdy person, as we've established.
All right.
And
Okay. Yes.
I'm not an expert on this topic, but all their molecules are kind of arranged in these very specific structures that are called lattices, and they have really interesting properties and are really useful. Metals are really, really, like most of the modern age is sort of sits on the back of the properties of metals, which are the properties of crystals.
Okay. All right. See, you studied this stuff.
No,
actually,
that's
didn't
just
you?
a personal interest.
Oh my God! Then you are a geek, right?
I don't know.
geek?
These words, they're so...
GEEK. Sounds like is that a geek word? I think if
Geek,
you're really
nerd,
into-
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have an appreciation. I think that I wish people understood that, like, from a perspective of like somebody from like even 100 or 200 years ago, we live in an age of magic. Like most of what our scientists and engineers can do now, was inconceivable. Like, would be
Oh, sure. Yeah.
totally impossible for people to understand. And we treat it like it's totally normal. Like, I flew to Taiwan on an airplane.
Sure. Yeah.
In 1920, that would have been like, what? You flew how far?
Yeah.
And in 1900, you flew at all?
Right.
Or like, we didn't have plastics. We didn't have even the mass production of steel or stainless steel wasn't so common. We treated also, or the mass availability of like cheap clothes. Like, clothes used to be, I think it was like 20% of people's income, and now it's like less than, I think, 1%. The world has really changed, and we have all this material wealth, but it goes kind of unappreciated.
Right. Yeah. These are topics I don't think much about, but
Maybe it's too nerdy for you. I apologize.
No. It's interesting stuff. I'm thank you for bringing it up. We need to drill down, of course, into the other issue we were hoping to talk about is these amazing gyms they have.
Oh, yeah. That's
Physical fitness centers they have.
I think it's one of my top 10 favorite things in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So they have I think it's the sports administration and I think it's part of the National Health Administration. I don't know the government departments here.
I don't either.
But they sponsor these exercise facilities, and there are private gyms and there are private pools, and some of those are really nice. But I think it's every city in Taiwan, pretty much.
Well,
every major city,
yeah.
and many minor cities. There's what are called sports centers, and usually that they'll have a badminton court, a basketball court, a pool, a weightlifting gym. They'll sometimes have specialty facilities,
Yoga.
ping pong. Even some of them have airsoft. Like the one down the road here has airsoft shooting range, and
Really?
and on the roof has archery.
Really? I know that they also, I've seen them do the samurai style sword fighting stuff.
Kendo.
With sticks.
Kendo.
Yeah. So yeah, and these cost how much? Like to go in?
Nothing. I use the pool mostly, and for a student I think it's 80 NT, and then for like a normal person it's like 120. And there are special discounts also for seniors and other people, and it's unlimited. So you pay your day fee, and you can stay there as long as you want. And so the pools, some of them, they have Olympic-sized pools in some places. But the best part, whether they have big pools or small pools, they have hydrotherapy, which I don't even know if it's a concept in America. So they have like water cannons and bubble tables and something I call the ball tickler because it has bubbles of water that come up in between your legs.
Yeah, those are sort of like for massage. Yeah.
It's like healing the body with like various types of like gentle or strong water pressed against the body. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, I'm shocked how clean and cheap these places are. I've used their weightlifting gym, and I think it was like 50 NT, which is about $1.50.
Super cheap.
For an hour.
Clean.
Yeah.
They're sufficiently clean. I don't expect spotless. They're cleaned regularly. They're safe to use, but if I had to offer like a little bit of a complaint, some of them are a little bit dirtier than others, but they're all well maintained.
Yeah, and for a city government to offer that kind of thing in America would be impossible.
It's unbelievable. I think that part of it is there is a sense of we need to keep people healthy. We want people to live healthy lifestyles. We're going to offer these services. It will save because the government has national health insurance. It'll save the national health insurance some money because people are going to take care of themselves. And so there's a whole notion, or I suspect, I don't know. This is me sort of projecting my thoughts into what I see. But I think some of it's a notion of how do we get people to be healthy so that we can sort of save money within our healthcare system, and how can we make sure that we take care of people overall?
Right, and we were talking about in a previous program about the social contract. And it's amazing that Taiwan takes such places seriously and makes an effort to maintain them and keep them safe. In America, you had to pay a membership fee of an enormous amount of money to just go to a gym sometimes. So.
There's kind of tiers. This is a topic I know really well.
Mm.
There are cheap gyms, but if you want a nice gym, that's a difficult comparison to make because what Taiwan has, the sports centers sit between our cheapest option and our nice option. We don't really have something comparable actually in most cases.
No, you're right.
You used to have like a YMCA or a JCC,
right.
But those sports facilities, a lot of them have closed down,
Right.
and that would have been the most comparable to what Taiwan has.
Right.
These are like community centers that various religious communities originally opened, but then sort of became kind of generic. But yeah, the availability of aquatic facilities as well as like weightlifting, basketball. The number one, I think the most popular is the badminton, though.
Yeah, badminton is in Asia general. It's sort of like a religious sport. It's amazing.
I don't know I've never found badminton friends. I have ping pong friends. I have basketball friends.
Right.
I have swimming friends. I've never made any badminton friends in Taiwan.
I played badminton a few times, and they were just local girls, and I thought, well, I'm a big guy. I can. And the first.
Wait. Were you playing because of the badminton, or were you playing because of the?
Well, I was playing for the fun of it, whatever, just to see. And these two girls and the two American guys, pretty big, fast, tough. And this first serve on the girls' side, it hit my ear. I started bleeding. I go, I didn't even see it.
Some people get hit cockeyed. You got cock-eared.
She shot right past my ear and it started bleeding. I thought,
well, those feathers can be a little sharp.
What the hell is? What the heck is? She's dangerous.
I think you just had some bad luck.
Well, they beat us. They destroyed us. And they thought we were lousy players and we should go home, and we did.
Well, you probably were lousy players. So I think they take racket sports really seriously here.
Yeah, I played badminton when I was a kid in the park with friends. But
no. Like
this is something else.
So this is like American ping pong versus Taiwan ping pong. I think badminton here, especially amongst the people that are serious about it, it
truly is badminton.
I sell some of my stuff secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, and I had a set of badminton because I never found anyone to play with, so I was going to sell my badminton racket. And apparently, like the people that looked at it told me it's too heavy. It was made of carbon fiber, and I thought, oh, it's nice. And they're like, no, this is not competitive enough. It weighs too many ounces or grams or whatever. And I'm like, it weighs nothing. What are you talking about?
It was like being an expert, and yeah,
they're so fussy and they play really fast and they're so serious about it.
Yeah, I had to stop playing immediately and put a towel around my ear and try to stop the bleeding. And they put Vaseline on my ear, and I kept playing. I thought, this is it. I'm going to get revenge, and I just couldn't do it.
You sound like a boxer. They put Vaseline on it.
I just like, yeah, they had Vaseline there and everything. I'm like, why? What? They're ready.
Do you know the super glue trick? The super glue works better.
Super glue on a cut?
Yeah.
I saw that in a movie called Barry.
They do that. Hilarious. They do that. The military doesn't say that's what it is, but they have for wound care. They have a super glue solution for open wounds to stop the hemorrhaging. This is a thing. Like I don't know if this is an appropriate topic, but
no, I'll have to YouTube this.
There are some really, if you want to close a wound really fast, that's one of the best ways to do it.
I've seen people pinch a wound shut.
Well, the super glue holds the skin. It's like a liquid staple.
And it does. It probably.
It's not super toxic or anything.
Right. It falls apart after a while.
Yeah.
After a few days.
And you can also use. There's various ways you can break it down.
And the skin just rejects it after a while, right?
Yep. But they make a specific medical grade version of it. But if you ever do get a serious cut and you need to get emergency care and you don't have anything else and you happen to have some super glue,
oh my God.
It's good for small cuts too. For your ear, it would have worked really well.
I don't think that I want to do that to my ear. But have you ever used staples on a cut?
So I'm a very sporty person. When I was a kid, I went wakeboarding, which is kind of like oh boy, it's like kind of snowboarding but on the water.
Okay.
And I was like 12 or something, and the thing that the equipment they gave me didn't fit, and one of my feet came out when the boat was turning, and the board came up and it cut my head.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to staple my head shut. It was like 4 or 7 staples.
Okay.
And so yeah, I've been stapled up.
Does it hurt? It does. It hurt me,
I found the experience of being stapled to be more like when you're a kid, a little bit more intimidating or scary than the staples didn't hurt, but like that chunk of the machine as they put the staples in.
I only got one, so I'm an amateur, I guess. But when they said staples in the emergency room, I go, I need to leave now. Why don't you just put just sew it shut? Oh, no, just staple.
I think that a lot of that technology, the staples and the stitching, like the adhesives have gotten really good. They should really replace a lot of that. And it takes such a long time for like proven medical technologies to replace traditional stuff.
Right. Okay.
So even like when plastic got really, this is again being nerdy, when plastic got really cheap, it took a while to replace glass in a lot of cases. So like we moved to like plastic syringes and plastic tubing versus all the glass stuff.
Right.
Took forever.
Well, yeah, when I was a kid, growing up in a farming community, I was constantly cutting myself on something. So,
Rusty steel.
yeah, axe falling, bouncing off.
Those
a
get
log
nasty
and
infections, actually. It's not good.
I never had a nasty one. I think I was just so full of antibiotics already.
Was it you lived on there were cows and stuff?
Well, it depends on where we were doing. I think when you're a kid like that, living in a farming community, you build up a lot of immunity to stuff. But I only got one infection on my face, actually, and it was an accident or something. I should have gone to the doctor and had it sewn up, but I didn't. I just let it. I guess I was just jaded. The phrase jaded means you're just tired of the same old, same old. I was jaded by getting cut, and it got infected, and I still didn't go to the doctor. And
the doctor in America is expensive, and it's also a huge hassle. You have to wait a long time, and it's just it's frustrating and annoying.
Fortunately, this happened later in life. I was in college, and one of my girlfriends was a nursing student, so she took care of it. But it's hard to get antibiotics in America. You can get them here in Asia pretty easily, I think.
Well, there's been a lot of challenges with making sure that the drug. So the bacteria over time adapt to the drugs, and so we don't want to use the drugs too much. And I think in a lot of places we've used the drugs too much historically, and so now we have to be careful to make sure that the drugs are still working, and so we try to use less of them. It's a very complicated global issue. Global medicine, I think, is just really tricky. We're like hypothetically, what happens in one country affects other countries. I think we saw that with the pandemic. We see that with a lot of global health issues. It's really, really tricky because people already have a hard time getting along. And then when you have to have global policy on something like antibiotics, it's really, really tricky, even though everybody can be hurt if our medicines stop working.
Right.
I think people forget that we're on this little tiny place called Earth, and there's a lot of us, but there's not so many of us, and there's a lot of things that bring us together and we have in common, and we have to try to take care of each other. Yeah,
well, that's a nice way of looking at it. I don't know if it's doable after COVID. We lost a lot of faith in the institutions during COVID.
Not always, but occasionally, we had global efforts that were effective. We closed the ozone hole. We got rid of polio. Did we get rid of TB? I think we got rid of most of TB.
I think TB is, definitely. We're talking about tuberculosis. You can still get it in some poor countries.
We've managed to get everybody on the planet a bit healthier. We could do better, but it's not like we're totally terrible. We've never succeeded. I think it's just a real challenge to get everybody to sort of like work towards like sort of getting everybody happy and healthy. Like we have different ideas about what that means, and sometimes people act in really selfish ways.
Yeah, well, there we go again about the idea of rights and responsibilities of this, social contract between the citizens and the government and just citizens and citizens, people and people.
Well, I think it can go both ways. So, like we talked about how the sports centers are great.
Yeah.
A little bit more on the negative side. Sometimes the government worries too much. So, there are wild hot springs. That because it's a volcanic island, there are these places where you can go soak in warm water, and they're safe. But sometimes you have to like hike or go cross a river, and the government worries that someone's going to trip and hurt their ankle, and so they make rules against going to these very beautiful places. And so it can go the other way too, where there are too many rules, or people try to care too much about like trying to keep people safe. That's a very simple example. We're not going to get into the more complicated ones.
We had a phrase for that. I guess it's called the nanny state.
Yeah, I thought that's
what is a nanny?
It's like a babysitter. The most famous example that I like is Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, British. In Britain, they have nannies that take care of younger children. Sometimes if you're rich, you have a
You might, in
nanny.
America, you might have a babysitter.
Right.
They often kind of high school or college-aged women who want to earn some money, helping families make sure that their kids are safe when they go out for like a date.
Right. Nannies, a nanny state, then, a state means a country.
It's like a country that treats its people like children.
Right. So some countries are very protective of their citizens. And I think Singapore is an example, but that's not a bad thing for Singapore. The people are protected from hurting themselves, and they keep people safe from crime and other things. That's a good thing. But yeah, if you want to be an adventurer and you want to climb a Mount Everest or go down a dangerous river for just to test your, a test of your humanity. Even you want to go to.
Sometimes the government makes rules.
Makes rules that make it very difficult for you to explore these. Explore yourself.
Well, you're taking kind of extreme examples. I'll give you a simpler example. I've been to Taruko Gorge has some hot springs.
Oh, yeah.
And the government has said nope and removed. There used to be stairs in the mountain to get to them, but it's very steep, and they just decided they were too worried about people falling.
I've seen these stairs back when I first got here, and they were dangerous.
They should have put in a railing or something instead. I feel like
you can't put a railing in everywhere. It's very hard to.
That's true.
You kill workers trying to put some of these things in.
I think that you have some countries like America where like there's a lot of focus on people having freedom, and then you have some countries where it's about like everybody together, let's keep everybody safe. I think that there's a third thing that's kind of like not so good, where it's like the people who run the government basically try to just help themselves, and that's like there's some countries where that happens, and they'll say really nice things about helping the people and stuff, but it's not true. And I'm not going to name any countries in particular, but there are some countries out there that are the leadership is very, very selfish.
Well, we can turn to America for examples of independence-minded people who are, we call them preppers or survivalists in America.
I have mixed feelings. I think that, I love the idea of rugged individuality and self-reliance, but I feel like there's an undercurrent of negativity where they feel like everything is going to collapse or fall apart.
They believe the apocalypse, zombies are coming.
Some of them are religious. Some of them think that the end of the world is coming.
And they live in the mountains, and they have.
I think that a lot of those people have never actually tested their setups, and if they were to live on their setup for like 6 months or a year, they would discover that their setups are deeply flawed.
Yeah, and plus their neighbors know about them.
Well, no, so arguably, you would want good neighbors in a situation like that. You'd want a community of preppers.
When they run out of food, they're going to come looking. I've known a lot of preppers. And
that doesn't surprise me
survivalists,
somehow.
in the farming community. and they have their own water storage systems in the under the basements. They're clean water, and it's rainfall from the roof that goes automatically into these little pools that they've constructed under the basements of their homes.
But that assumes that the rainwater isn't contaminated, or you can filter it.
Oh, they test it. They take it to the local water.
Water treatment's really difficult.
Yeah.
Globally, water treatment is one of the most difficult issues.
Really? Okay.
So like a huge cause of death is like water pollution. So like people get various diseases from water.
Huh. Okay.
So like child mortality globally is affected hugely by the quality of water, which is often because it gets contaminated by pollutants or bathroom sanitation contaminates water a lot of the time.
Right.
It's a developing world issue, but it's even in like the first world, like it's cleaning water, especially in like dry places like the Middle East or Africa, is really, really tricky. And groundwater is often really deep, and digging wells is not so easy. And then you have to pump water. It's needing water is like needing air. It's such a basic thing, but really, really tricky issue globally.
Yeah, growing up in a farming community, we test our water every few years. Took it to the local
for like lead, or like what do you test
sulfur.
It for? So it's like hard water. It's like mineralized.
Yeah, well, we had coal mines in the area, and so and they were also blasting for the coal.
It's a messy process.
Yeah, and so they would sound a air raid siren whenever they're getting ready to blow up something. These were surface mines, not underground mines. And at surface mines, they have to use explosives to just carve out another layer of coal so they can dig through it. And they would sound a siren, and then they would put meters on your property to see if there was any earthquake-style damage.
Vibration meters, probably seismic meters.
Because if we had a crack in our foundation, we could sue them. So
I think that people, I mean, it's like they literally carve like a whole wall of a mountain. They do an explosion, and like a small mountain falls down.
Yeah, it's only a small slice of them.
Yeah, but like by weight, it's enormously heavy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've seen. There's an area we could go to watch them blast, and we get the air raid siren. We drive out and we just watch that go up, and then that whole layer of earth would move down, and then you see the coal, the black, and phosphorus. Of course, it was intermittent with the coal.
I've really enjoyed fire and explosions, but you got to be really careful around that stuff.
We would have phosphorus ghost. I don't know if you know what those are.
No, I don't know what that is at all.
Yeah, some of the old mines were underground, and they were all over the place when I grew up. And if you shined your car lights into the woods of a certain area, these gases coming out of the earth, and then turn your lights off, you could see what looked like ghosts walking around the forest. It was just phosphorus gas leaking from the underground mines.
That's what you want to believe, anyways.
Oh, it was great fun. It really scared you bring your girlfriend from the city, and you're like,
she hugs you tight.
She said, "This is where the ghosts hang, an old graveyard buried under here."
One of the most popular here, I'll tell you a nerdy. Supposedly, some people will take a girl on a date to some place like that's exciting or scary, so that they will grab onto you and give you like a tight hug. And it's like a way of building intimacy.
That's wrong, though.
It's not right or wrong. So someone, you might go to like a roller coaster ride or a
scary movie.
Yeah, and it's just like they'll grab your hand. It's cute, and it's not like, it's not so bad. It's not so good. It's
an old trick.
It's guys trying to build a relationship with girls. It can be very challenging.
I never did that, though. I felt like that was too obvious. So, except for the ghost in the woods, phosphorus stuff, that was fun, because they really did look like ghosts walking around.
That sounds cool.
I explained it to them,
I think that I've found that if I want to hold a girl's hands, that like if there's a puddle or something, you just put out your elbow and then they'll hold your arm, and then you can switch that to just holding their hand, and then it's very natural.
Okay.
What? It's the,
These are techniques that we should not share with men. Young men need to learn this stuff by themselves.
basically just be nice, be friendly, but also like show that you're interested in them and things
I
go
think
well.
I have a theory that all men think they're tigers, and but the women choose the tiger. That's my opinion.
Oh, I think women have way more control over the dating
Power,
process than guys.
Complete power. Yeah, the other issues regarding healthcare in Taiwan is the fact that everyone here seems to be healthy. I mean,
Oh, I have a more complicated feeling about it than that.
really? Okay. What is it a feeling, or is it like an analysis?
It's my personal analysis. I wouldn't say it's like sophisticated.
But if you go to America, people are 300 pounds when you get out of the airport in Chicago.
I think that the food here overall is healthier.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people are health conscious. I think that a lot of, I will say, and maybe this is very judgmental, I spend time in the hospitals because I have a chronic illness. And I do business here, so like the government makes money off of me. I'm not sort of a drain on their system. But I see who's at the hospitals, and a lot of the old people that are there, they just want attention, or they have sort of the aches and pains of being old. And a huge percentage of it could be handled in a better way. So even this system, they have one of the best, most cost-effective medical systems in the world.
Right.
But they still, especially around what's called geriatric care, the care of old people,
Right.
they probably spend double, triple, quadruple what they should. I think because they don't have a system for like handling getting old and setting reasonable expectations, and when do you involve a doctor, and like how do you make it cost effective. Because there's almost no young people at the hospitals. You see hardly anyone under the age of 40 or 45.
I'm going to the hospital today, in fact, for my annual checkup. So, yeah. But, yeah, you're right. When you go in there,
There's no young people. And that's good. You don't want to see young people sick. So in the sense that, like, for the young
unless
people...
Unless it's an accident of some sort.
Yes, if there's, like, a scooter crash or something.
Like your accident.
Wow. I think that
I do feel young in there, even though I'm old.
Well, you still, by the standard of the hospital, you are. I think that the Taiwanese medical system is something that the Taiwanese people should be really proud of. I think it's called Zhenbao or something. It's really it's a good thing, and I think that there is a lot of the aquatic facilities. I think overall, like the country really makes an effort to try to take care of people, and it's really nice.
It's amazing here. It really is. I wonder sometimes if I was still living in America and I hadn't come to Asia in 1990 to Hong Kong, I wonder if I'd still be alive today.
Well, you have the occasional whiskey.
Well, I do. But in America, I wonder if the starch and the processed foods you see in the grocery stores, for example.
You don't have to buy that, though. I actually would argue that the vegetable selection is better in America.
Really?
I think that you can buy way more vegetable produce, and some of it is healthier. The Asian people like Asian vegetables, which is not surprising, but it's a much narrower group of vegetables. The mushrooms are much more extensive.
Here?
Here. But overall, the vegetable variety in the average American grocery store is bigger, and I think some of them have really nice nutrients. It's not like you can find most vegetables here, but it's a lot more work. But no, Americans buy junk food. They don't buy those healthy vegetables. It's as much bad choices as anything else.
It requires a lot of preparation, and I'm kind of a lazy person to prepare, a good meal each night. My wife sometimes does it.
We don't know how to. No one teaches us. Our American system used to teach people some basic cooking, and that's kind of fallen away from like the public education system, and cooking in general just has become a little bit less popular.
Yeah. So I still think I would be dead. I just think
because of poor eating.
Well, yeah. I friends of mine my age back home. I went to my high school reunion, and it was. I won't say what year it was, but
But you flew back for your high school reunion?
yeah, it was like the last opportunity to see people that I hadn't seen since I graduated high school.
Well, I don't care about the people I went to high school with.
Well, it's a small town, you know. There's
I guess
only
you were
like-
from a community. Yeah, it
There's
makes
only
more sense.
250 kids in the class, and but I'd say a quarter of them were dead, 25%, and another 25, maybe more, 50% left over were. I only met two guys there that were four guys that were physically healthy. The rest were just finished.
Yeah, but like, were they smoking and drinking and doing other things?
No, they had when they were young people, of course. Smoking was still popular in the 80s and 90s in America. I mean, it really was.
I mean, and to be fair, I'm blown away by betel nut and kind of cigarettes here. Like, and also the drinking culture of the people that do drink in Taiwan. They drink so heavy. It's pretty hardcore.
I think when they want to have a good time, they do.
Yeah, they party really hard.
I wouldn't say they do it every day.
No, I think alcoholism is probably much less common. In part because they're so relaxed about drinking. Like, it's legal to drink on the street here. It's not legal to drink in the street in the U.S.
That's another crazy thing that I can't. Even in Hong Kong, you can do a little bit of that. And
You get arrested if you drink even a beer on the street.
Yeah, in America, you're finished. You're doomed.
Only for special festivals and stuff. Is
Well, yeah, St. Patrick's Day, of course, which is Irish holiday.
Good luck explaining that to this audience. That's especially in a city like Chicago, where like it's a level of drunkenness that I don't think most places will ever experience.
Yes, on the street, and there's Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
Also, a level of drunkenness that's hard to explain. It's so many people drunk at the same time to such a degree.
And there's dancing in the streets, and people. There's a parade of very unusual.
Sensual.
I would say partially dressed people.
I think Americans don't. I think Americans like to party, and we don't take care of ourselves. And I think yes, I think the eating and the drinking. I think a lot of people in America don't take care of themselves. I think it's also just not being informed or not having enough time. Also, I think that those are big factors in it too, where people are not so happy with how they take care of themselves. But it's not so easy to sort of make sure you're doing the good things. Not everyone has the time to go to the gym. Not everyone has the time or the money for the healthy food. It's tricky. I think it is easier to have a comfortable lifestyle here. But as a business person, I feel like, I don't know, I liked the business environment in America better. So it's complicated. I think that there's kind of trade-offs. I think this place is very comfortable and I think kind of a bit healthier. But I think I like the American mindset overall. Even with all the fighting and everything that's going on politically, I feel like there's like a get up and go kind of wanting to do things and start things and be creative. And it's not like that doesn't exist here, but I feel like it just existed so much more.
Right.
I don't know. I'm from a big city though, so it's also a different vibe. Chicago is a very vibrant city.
Only 3 hours away. The Chicago for me is wow. To drive up there in 3 hours and to mix it up. You have some great jazz and blues bars back in the day. I don't know if there's
there's still a lot. My favorite is a place called Green Mill. It's where Al Capone used to drink.
I think this is the place I went. Is it kind of oldish?
Yep.
And they keep it.
It might still be run by the mob. It's not clear.
It's and the people in there are extremely friendly and.
You gotta if you're yeah. Up until they're not, they're really friendly. It's in a little bit of a rough neighborhood, but the neighborhood has changed over time.
That's right. I was there.
Be careful at night in that neighborhood, but that is a really great bar. But there's Solomon's Mines. There's the Old Town School folk music. There's a lot of jazz clubs. I could name a bunch of places.
I went into this place with a friend one night, and they said you have to come here, and you had to just smell it. smell the aura. You could literally smell the smoke, the cigar smoke that was caking the walls, and it was just exuded. It was just like you're back in 1930.
Well, but cigars and cigarettes have really not so popular in Chicago anymore.
Well, of course, but you could just tell that place had been around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's tunnels underneath for like the gangsters to get away.
Yeah.
But that neighborhood transitioned from being, I think, more Italian to being more black, and it also the neighborhood became more poor. It's kind of, there's even in that neighborhood, there's some kind of in that general area, there's some Frank Lloyd Wright buildings that were like private houses.
Frank Lloyd was an architect,
very famous, known for the prairie style.
Right.
I think
his stuff is, if you want to look this up, his name is
Frank Lloyd, Lloyd Wright, Wright, I believe.
Look up his architecture.
His waterfall building is probably his most iconic.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But there's some he also did commercial spaces. So I went to there's an office building complex in upstate Illinois that was for like I think Johnson & Johnson or something.
Oh really? Okay.
And it's like he in a lot of ways had a very interesting vision of like the future of work, the future of home living. His buildings often were ahead of their time. Like the materials that he used often fell apart because they didn't have structural reinforcement. His buildings leaked, but honestly, the vision, the design of the buildings themselves he had a very interesting notion of the future of like how people lived, and in a lot of ways he was right.
Well, there was a movie made about him. I don't think it was true, but someone was building one of his larger projects, and in the movie they changed all kinds of stuff on his design, and he decided to blow it up with dynamite.
I think the largest project maybe that he did actually was destroyed, though.
Really?
I think
was it him that destroyed it?
No, I think it was an earthquake in Japan. I think he did some giant hotel in Japan, and the whole thing collapsed or something.
Oh, no.
I might be, if any Frank Lloyd Wright fans out there, if I'm wrong about this, I apologize. I might be totally misremembering, but I think he built some giant hotel that like ended up totally falling apart. I don't even think it was his fault.
Well, Frank Lloyd, you're talking about a man who designed these buildings, but didn't really know the function of the the engineering part of it.
So like structural engineering, like the ability for a building to withstand like
earthquakes or
weather was not so sophisticated when he was alive. There was no computer modeling or anything.
Of course not.
Computers didn't really almost exist.
We had drafting boards, and it took months to design these things.
So, and this is the same time as, the word skyscraper is being invented around in his lifetime.
Right.
It's just a different time, and I think architecture, especially in Illinois, has a very special place because Chicago had this big fire called the Great Chicago Fire.
Oh, yeah. How much of the city was destroyed?
Something like 60%.
What year was this?
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble. I forget.
It was before cars. It was in the late 1800s, I think.
1886? Oh,
yeah.
Wait. I know this. Wait, this is embarrassing. I want to look on my phone.
Yeah,
I should know this.
The Great Chicago Fire, yeah. I remember that even though we were 3 hours away, I remember my great-grandparents talking about being able to see the fire from 3 miles away.
So you have this giant fire, and some people blame it on a cow knocking over a lantern. No one really knows.
Well, they had kerosene lanterns back then.
Oh, yeah. So they didn't have a...
But what is a cow doing in a Chicago city?
Because, so Chicago used to be where all the beef was slaughtered.
That's right. I forgot about this.
So there were tons of cows.
Right.
It was it was Cow Central.
Yes. I forgot all about it.
So we used to have... there was a guy who wrote a book called The Jungle about the meatpacking industry where they would kill all the animals for eating. And Chicago was the place where that was done.
And he was working in a factory for fun.
And it was a very messy, dirty process. There was a lot of animal poop, and it wasn't so clean. And eventually, that slowly the city got cleaned up later.
Wasn't there a security guard that disappeared one night? Had fallen into the.
There's a lot of
had
crazy
a heart attack and fell into the grinders. And
a lot of crazy, disgusting stories. It's it's a city that's changed a lot. But the city burns down, and then you have all these architects that try to reimagine an American city. There's this guy called Burnham that comes up with a plan for the whole city. And that's why, in many ways, Chicago is one of the most planned and one of the most beautiful cities in America, like big cities.
Yeah, the Great Chicago Fire. I hope everybody looks this up on the internet. We're talking about a major city, 60% burnt.
It's like if Taipei or Tokyo burned.
Completely. Yeah, 60% of it gone. And I remember the fire chief decided to create a what they call a break wall.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
I think it's a water break, maybe.
A fire break or
fire
something.
Break. Yeah. It's basically they just try to stop their losses. They'll burn some area to try to create an area where the fire will stop.
Well, he destroyed these buildings using dynamite. He destroyed a whole row of very important buildings, including a bank. And he called the mayor and said, "I got to destroy this bank too. I got to drop all these buildings down and hope we can stop it." And the mayor said, "Do it." And it didn't help. It just made it.
It was Chicago does have some big wins, and it was a windy day, and it was a big mess. But I think it's one of the reasons why now Chicago has so many architecture firms. You have all these firms that build all these buildings as part of the rebuilding, and then now Chicago has many engineering firms and architecture firms that design buildings all over the world, including some of the tallest. Just because, there was a need for a lot of architects because you had so much of the city destroyed. I think that created there was already a culture of building buildings there, but it made it much richer. Chicago also has more rules about building buildings than most places because of the fire.
Okay.
There's so many rules about anti-fire prevention. They really don't like fires.
Brick.
They really don't want another big fire in Chicago.
I was always surprised New York never had a big one because it was a lot
pretty
of wooden,
tightly packed.
A lot of wooden buildings. Brick.
It's not as windy, and I think maybe some of it's good luck. I don't know.
I think good luck has a lot to do with it. Yeah, I don't know if there's any comparison to any city in the world that experienced anything like that.
Outside of a war situation. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, war, of course.
Firebombing used to be a thing. But let's Google that if you want to learn about some horrible stuff.
And, there was a volcano, Mount...
Oh, Pompeii.
Yeah, that was a natural disaster that...
sometimes cities are destroyed by, tsunamis or volcanoes.
Right. Yeah.
But I think there's nothing quite like a giant fire. It's
the heat. Yeah.
It's I do some stuff in the artistic community where they'll burn sculptures and stuff.
What kind of paper do they use for that?
It depends on the situation.
It burns up really fast, right?
There are types of paper that burn clean and fast. I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but I've been involved in our projects and stuff.
I've seen some of that stuff. It's quite amazing.
I think that there's an idea of, I think some of it's the impermanence of things, and some of it's the beauty of fire, and some of it's just it's a hassle to move these sculptures, so build it and then burn it down. It's not a hassle.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
It's you ever see the Buddhist the sand drawings?
Right.
I think it has some of that vibe to it, even though it's much more destructive and kind of wild.
Yeah, I would say that I've only seen a couple of these things, and only on TV, and usually there's a story that's told as they're burning it, before they burn it, and then it burns in a different direction as the story is told, and something. I don't know.
There's all kinds of. I was involved in one of these in Chicago, and
you told me about it. Yeah, go ahead and tell the audience again.
We built and burned down a 3-story building as public art for the city of Chicago, and because of the wind, some of the ashes fell on the rich people's boats and burned holes in their sails, and so the organization went under. But it was such a beautiful fire. It was a huge disaster. Great Chicago Fire Festival. You can Google it.
Great Chicago Fire Festival.
It was to remember the fire that happened
This is
before.
the man that pissed off angered the rich people.
Never anger the rich people. Like they will sue your organization and you will no longer exist.
Well, so their cells were they out at sea when they?
No. Chicago, because so Lake Michigan is this giant lake. It's almost like a little ocean.
Right.
That's next to the city. It's at the east edge of the city. And so you have this especially in the spring and summer, you have boating culture. It's like very, very extensive because the water is pretty calm. So lots of people have sailboats and little boats and even fishing boats. It's in America, it's one of the most common places to own a boat.
Yeah. It's a safe area,
it's
right?
It's an easy place to own a boat, relatively speaking, because
there's no salt water.
There's no salt water, and there's wind, but there's not like giant storms or like really rough waves so much.
Sometimes they find sharks there, don't they?
I can't speak to that. Occasionally, some strange aquatic animals do get into the lake, but because of all the pollution from back when, like the cows and the industrial era, there's almost nothing lives in the lake. The lake is like almost completely dead biologically.
But famous ships have sunk there, and they're still preserved, right?
Oh yes. So historically, a lot of trade used to move by boat. I mean, today global trade moves on big boats, but in America, you used to have trade that moved on like the rivers, and Chicago was a major port.
Canals and rivers.
And rivers, yeah.
We had them in my city as well, strangely enough.
You even have places like Navy Pier, which historically were like bases for like Navy military operations stuff.
Yeah, I know they have a boot camp for Navy there, or at least they used to.
They also have some like, Illinois is an interesting state. It has, I think that probably the most famous Illinois politician was Abraham Lincoln.
Right. Did he live in Chicago? Or?
He was a lawyer in Illinois.
But not Chicago, right? Or
I think he was very much involved in the politics of the state, and so he would have probably been involved in Chicago in some way. I don't know that.
Many people probably don't know this, but Chicago is not the state capital. It's
like, but New York City is not the capital of New York.
Is it? I don't know.
I don't think it is.
I don't know, man. I live in a.
I think that sometimes in America you have a big city that dominates a whole state. So like people don't think of Illinois, they think of Chicago. They think of New York City, not New York State.
What's the state capital in Illinois?
Springfield.
Springfield. Yes, it's actually kind of a very nice town.
It lives in the shadow of Chicago.
Right.
I've been. It's okay.
Yeah, the Lincoln is buried there.
Is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we went to see him as a kid, a high school or junior high trip. We went to see Lincoln's burial. There was a very funny story about Abraham Lincoln. He was buried in a regular grave there for a while.
Didn't someone steal his body?
Someone stole Abraham Lincoln's body. Actually.
Yeah, why do people? Happens with this only with famous people, but people really like to steal bodies. It's not cool. Don't do that.
And they didn't get very far though. And then they decided to build this concrete.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
But there's some very famous people they've tried to steal the bodies of.
People are silly.
Yeah. I don't know if it's America alone or it's
it's a global thing.
It's international. France had a famous spy back in World War One. I can't remember her name, but they had her body. Someone stole part of it. Her head, and they don't know where it is. But what would you do with it? Sell it on the internet?
I don't know. I think so there was somebody. I think it was with permission. Somebody had Einstein's brain for a while.
Yes, that was another strange thing. Someone stole. It didn't steal.
I think they had medical permission to like study it, but like
he had no. The guy who took it actually didn't have any medical experience or something.
I don't know. I don't think we're.
They got it back though. I think.
I think that people have a weird relationship with death, and we have a weird relationship with dead bodies.
In the West.
Here too. I went
in
when
Asia,
I was at the hospital. I went to the ground floor where they have the mortuary area, and I attended a funeral. I was really bored. I was really bored. Here in the hospital, you have a broken arm. You can walk around, but you can't do anything.
I've heard about these people.
So I attended. I think
They're called zombies.
No, I attended a Buddhist funeral. Like I went down and they have like a whole selection of urns for like.
And the family's there?
Yeah, they were doing Buddhist chants.
They didn't mind you just coming on in? And
I mean, I was respectful. I was quiet. I observed for like 5 minutes and I left.
Okay, well,
But no, I think globally, like we just don't know quite because like we have so much attachment to the person that was alive, and then like when they die, it's like hard to let go. And so I think we have like everywhere in the world almost. There's like we have all these very weird rituals around death.
Yeah, I think it's a mystery. That's part of the problem. Death is a mystery to all us all, and we wonder about the afterlife, and we don't have answers. And,
who knows?
Yeah,
Live the best life you can, and when you die, you die.
I guess that's a very American answer to it.
Is it? What's an alternative answer? What's a better answer?
Not to step into any religious cloth here, because I don't know.
You think that there's an afterlife?
I don't know what there is. I definitely wonder why we are here. But
I'm very skeptical that anyone knows for sure. I think that everyone, all the religious people that say that they know, I'm a fairly religious person myself. Although it's more like ancestor worship than I think, which I believe in like the traditions of my ancestors. But the idea that like there's like heaven and hell and all these notions of like reincarnation or like afterlife. I think people are very uncomfortable with things that they don't understand.
Yeah. It's an amazing subject, and I know you have to go, and I'm so sorry. And we will thank our listeners, and Jay, thanks for coming.
I hope it was an interesting and thoughtful conversation, just kind of shooting the breeze.
Definitely fun to talk to you. And everyone have a good day.
Have a good day.